Hello, students. How are you? I hope you guys are healthy and safe. And what I'm planning to do is to create this video on Access. And hopefully, you can view this any number of times till you get it and answer the questions that are posted. So, without much ado, I'm going to talk about Access and how to create Access. So the first thing that I want to do is to start a blank database. That means a database from scratch. And I'll also show you how to open a new database, a database that is given to you, both of them. So let me create a blank database first. You are not going to do this, but the reason I want to do this is to show you the various parts and features of Microsoft Access. So when I click on my start button and then I go to access, my access comes up. And this is what happens in my access. Once I start it, I'm going to see this blank database here. This is where I'm going to start a new database. I can usually use this new too. Or if I want to open a database which I have downloaded from Blackboard, then I can click on this open and then open that one up wherever it is stored. So a couple of things on this Access. First of all, you can create a new blank database or a new database, or you can open an existing database. So I'm going to show you the various parts of Microsoft Access in this. So I'm going to create a new blank database. So when I create a new blank database, the first thing Access asks me to do is to store the database somewhere. So once I store it, then I don't need to save it at all. I just get out of Access and it automatically saves. So you don't need to be saving it like Excel or Word or anything every time. So that is the difference between Excel, Word, and Access. So now I'm going to create a new database. So I'm going to create a new database by looking, if you look at here, see this folder here, and this is where I want to store this database or store this file. So I'm going to go to desktop and I'm going to create a database called, let's call it example. How about that? Example. And then I'm going to click OK. So now you see this example.accdb. The accdb is the extension of Access. Okay, extension for Access. So I'm going to create a database called example on my desktop. That's what I'm planning to do. So now I click on create and it creates a new database. Okay. So this is the first view of a blank database called example. So let me show you where things are. And then we will do an example so that you can see exactly how I'm doing all that stuff. All the things that I need to do with Microsoft Access. So first of all, Access has got 3 panes. This is the first pane. And this is the second pane. And this is the third pane. Okay, so I have 3 panes. The top pane here, whatever I see it here, the top panes has got home, create, external data, database tools, help, and all that stuff. So I'm always on my home first. So make sure that I'm at home. So here I have 2 things that I want to talk about, which is very important. The first one is, see this view here? This view here, if I click on this, I see database view and design view. So the data sheet view and the design view is a toggle. So if I click once, it goes to, I want to save this and all that stuff. And if I click on design view, I go to this. So let me save a table first, and then we can see what happens. So it is asking me to save this table. That's the reason I'm saying, and I'm saying OK. So now this is the data view. And if I click one more time, I see this changes. It changes here. I go to the design view. So one is a design view. Another one is a data sheet view. So let me talk about the design view first. In the design view, you have these tables. You have a table. This is a table. A table basically is like what we discussed before. So a table in an Access is like Excel. Okay, and this is called a table. It's like Excel. The table has got fields. So this field is, let's say I'm calling it an ID, and this field is, let's say I'm going to call it a sports. This is what we did in class before we left for the break, spring break. And this is the trophy, where the sports trophy. So my first ID is 1, and this ID is the public is the key, which is basically the primary key for this particular table. And this table is called, I can name it as sports. This is like we did in class. So this ID, sports, and trophy are the field labels. And I have records here. And this is the record 1. This is record 2 and 3. This is the field 1, field 2, and field 3. And I have data. Sports, for instance, I can say football. And the trophy is NFL. 2, I can say tennis. And I can say Wimbledon. So on and so forth. So now I have, these are the data. So the data in a database is held as records. Okay? And each one of these records have a unique ID, and that is this ID. And the primary key denotes the ID for this particular table. Okay? So basically, a table has got things like records, fields, and field labels, data, primary key, and sometimes it also has what is called a foreign key. A foreign key. It also has another field called foreign key sometimes. And these foreign keys and the primary keys are used for putting up relationships or creating relationships. Okay? So coming back to Access. So we have these tables. And all these tables are going to be here. So if you take this all Access objects, you can see what are the different objects that are there. You can have tables, you can have queries, you can have forms, you can have reports, and things like that. Tables are the most common things, or the first things you want to start with. Each table holds data. Okay? And you form a relationship between these tables so that you can extract data using queries. So what is a query? Query is a question that you pose to get answers. Queries help you to get the information from the database. Okay? Forms are used to input data into the tables, and reports are created so that you can see the results from the data. So if you have lots and lots of data and you want to create, let's say you want to create you have the sports table, and you have another table called sports team table, and in that you have the Chicago Bears. And you'll have another table called the roster of Chicago Bears. So if you want to know the current roster of Chicago Bears, you're going to use a query to access that information from this database. Okay, and that's how a database works. Relationships basically helps to form the tables together. That means join the tables together. So you can extract information for a query from multiple tables. So when you have multiple tables, you create relationships so that you can extract the information from there. Okay, so that is the first thing that you want to check. So this is the all access. So if I'm going to create a new query, a query will come up here. If I create a new report, the report will come here. So you will see every one of them here. Make sure that you have all access objects, because if you click on this and click on reports, since there are no reports, it's going to be blank. So if you click on this and click on all access, then it's going to show you the table, queries, reports, everything. So that's the first thing you need to know in this access. So this pane here pretty much gives you all the access objects. This pane gives you all the information, data, and all that stuff. This is where you create queries. This is where you create reports. And all those things will be done in this pane. The third pane, which is here at the top, gives you all the buttons. So now I have a button called Home. I have a button called Create. You can call it a button or you can call it a link. Either way is good. You have another one called External Data. You have one called Database Tools. So let me go through the most important aspects of access that you need to know in this class. The first one is, of course, Home. In the Home, you have this toggle, as we talked about. The toggle basically gives you the database view and then the design view. Okay. You also have the paste and all that stuff. You can do that. You can filter the data. You can ascend and descend the data by sorting and filter. You can total it like Excel and all that stuff. You can find some information. You can, if you have text, you can format the text using this whole thing here. You can do all that stuff. That's what Home gives you. The next tab or the link or the button is a Create. In this Create, you have all these icons. So you have an icon. In Create, you can design a table. You can design a query. You can design a form, and you can design a report. Those are the 4 things that you can do in a Create. So you can create tables, you can create queries, you can create forms, and you can create reports. Okay? The third one is external data. Here you can import data. You can import new data. You can import from Excel, HTML, XML file, or text file. You can import that into Access. Or you can export from Access into an Excel table or a text or an XML or a PDF, those kind of things. Okay, so you can import and export data. You can import into Access and export from Access using this external data link. The last link that I want to talk about is database tools. In this database tools, the only thing that you need to do is to know what are relationships, how to create relationships, and we'll be doing that later on. But relationships is the one thing that you need to know. You can always click on Help to make sure you can get help. Okay, so let's go for the access using an example next. This would have given you enough information to do ICE 10. So ICE 10 is pretty much covered in this video.